Welcome to the Numusick podcast. We're your two regular jackoffs from upstate New York. My name is Patrick.
And I'm Kyle. I honestly was waiting for you to do the other way around. I was like,
Oh, you thought I was going to do it again?
Yeah, I
No,
thought
I'm not going to say I'm Kyle again. I'm done with that joke. That joke is dead. It wasn't
The
even a
joke has
good
been
joke.
dead.
The joke wasn't even good in the first place. Today, our guest needs very little introduction. We have Mary Zimmer from VoiceHacks. Please tell the people at home what's up.
Hello. Thanks, guys, for having me on. I appreciate it very much. Hello.
God. First thing I want to ask you, all right, and this comes directly from your Facebook, is so you told me that you could teach me how to.
You just did it. Didn't you just do it?
No, I actually
need help
didn't.
with it.
Just...
I need help. I need to know how to.
Well, there you were kind of doing it differently. Like you were doing it differently each time you were just doing it there. But yeah, I teach people to do that a lot. It's not easy though. It's extremely difficult because I think a lot of people think it's a result of one thing happening, but it's really a result of another, and it's far more difficult than it looks. I think that's why people get like obsessed with those sounds, too, because it's just kind of is not everybody can do them.
I can only inhale and do that shit. I can't exhale. I can only inhale, breathe. That's all I can do.
The thing is, you can do it both directions because the mechanics of what's happening are similar, but you really want to do it in an exhale direction if you can.
I mean, everything should be exhale anyway, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, actually, somebody yesterday told me that the vocalist from Brand of Sacrifice gets trolled a lot, and because people are always saying he's inhaling and he says he's not. And it makes sense because almost nobody I've taught to do like the low, I call it the low fry, because when I'm talking about fry, I'm usually talking about the vocal cords being closed. And I think there's like this kind of misconception that like false chord screams are low screams and fry screams are high screams, because this is kind of their natural strength of each of them. But a lot of the people we're hearing doing gutturals, anything that has a bit of a toilet bowl, a squeal, a brie, is going to be some kind of closed, typically vocal cords. And it might be hard to believe that, but it's like in guys and a lot of men, when we hear this, their larynx is really long. So the crazy part is a man's larynx is so much longer than a woman's that when some men do it, and then there's always an exceptional person among the exceptional. I always say, like, look at all the people in the NBA and then like look at how many of them look like Shaquille O'Neal, even in the last like 30 years, very few of them, so there's always like the guy among guys who's got like the bigger larynx. So then you end up with people like Alex Terrible, where like a low fry is like audibly indistinguishable from a false chord. How you can kind of tell that the vocal folds are closed is by the length of time that it goes. False chord just means like the vocal cords are open, so like it's not going to go as long. And again, this like sort of toilet bowl kind of thing, this burpee kind of quality to it. It's not really, you can't do it with your vocal cords open as much. It's just like a different physics, like a different timbre. So that's why people can do it inhaling or exhaling, because you can have typically when people do inhale screams, their vocal folds are shut, but it's just that on exhale we're blowing this way and in inhale we're going this way, but your cords aren't really built to withstand suction. So that's why I don't generally recommend inhaling.
It's weird. A lot of vocalists that I know specifically started off doing inhales, and I say that from experience because that's how I got started. And usually learn what your voice is supposed to do by just doing, like most of the people I know is like, that's how I figured out what my throat was supposed to be doing, was by doing inhaling. And even then I want to correct them, but I also don't have the same wherewithal as someone like yourself to be able to properly coach them.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard. It's like your brain just does what it does. You can't feel what's happening in your vocal cords necessarily or figure out how to do it without some kind of instruction or really strange vocal knowledge, because it's just it's really abstract. You actually don't even really have much touch nerve endings in your vocal cords, and you don't really have direct command nerves in there. So it's really hard to figure this stuff out on our own and to just get any sound to come out at all, you know?
So first question, I'm sure a lot of people who are even remotely familiar with your channel would want to know how it is that you got started into not just doing vocals, but kind of how you got into coaching other people. I have to imagine that you went through some sort of formal training from an early age.
Yeah, I mean, I guess so. I've always done music since I was like 10, around there, like is when I started caring about it. Because I remember that this was like before that. I think you're just so young. You're like, like you don't care about anything. Then, like I just remember like a switch being on and being like, oh, this is caring about things. Like around 10 years old, like, oh, wanting to do things. And so, you know, like before it's just like playing and screwing around and stuff. And yeah, so I took piano lessons. I actually vocals were not my first inclination but I did always sing though. At the same time I was learning like piano and stuff, I was always in the choirs and blah 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 blah. And like probably like the first 10 to 12 years of my, like from 10 years old up to the early 20s, I was doing like really formal stuff like musicals. And my college degree, I mean, I always tell everybody like there's only 2 universities that I'm aware of in the United States that will give you a bachelor's degree in music without studying classical music, and that's the Berklee College of Music and Musicians Institute. And I'm from Wisconsin, which is not near neither of those places. So I had to really double down on the classical music. I did some of that before I went there, but you know, so I actually couldn't like rock belt, certainly not scream at all. And then I really learned how to do all of that at the same time as I was doing opera stuff in college, because that's when I started joining metal bands and like jamming with people, you know, and so it overlapped with my last few years of doing that. And I didn't really know what I was doing with harsh vocals, but I always started teaching people from the time I was like 19, because you know, it's just like musicians' default way to make money, I think, when you're like voice lessons or whatever. But then it you know, once I actually had my degree and everything and learned about all of it more, because even when I did musicals growing up, it's not the same as like studying it at the university level type of stuff. It becomes like way more serious and super intimidating and really crazy. But you learn all the stuff that you need to learn, and then to really give valuable lessons. And so I've just been giving lessons off and on since then, but it became my full-time job maybe about 6 years ago, where like I do nothing else. I was always doing it like concurrent with other things. But so like that's all I do jobs now.
Were you working at the time?
Oh my God. I've had like every shitty job known to man, like office jobs, human resources, like factory jobs. There was a generator factory near my college in Wisconsin, and I literally like be assembling generators, like air tools and like the whole
oh my God,
like I've had like crazy factory because like, well, the thing is people have to understand when you come, I think people from the Midwest I'm not sure where are you guys based out of?
We're from upstate New York.
Upstate New York. Okay, it's similar because my aunt lives in the Finger Lakes, and that's exactly not upstate, but it feels a lot like Wisconsin, and so I think it's similar. I think you guys could relate. You know, it's like people, you know, you just don't have like there's not a lot of like, you know, jobs available and stuff, and a lot of them are very blue collar factory type, you know, hard work type things that you do, you know. So
absolutely. So when did you start your YouTube channel, and how did you start, you know, coercing, or I guess coercing is definitely the wrong word, but kind of
I make people
stop using big words that I don't understand.
I don't even understand these words. Look, guys, you've been listening to this podcast for a while. You know, I am far from professional. This show is far from professional. And
none of us are educated.
Our best here. We're trying. We're trying.
That's the beauty of podcasts, though. It's like, I mean, and YouTube and the internet is like, do you need a formal education? You know,
absolutely not. But if I were to go out there and do what you do, then I feel like I would need some sort of education, or at least know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I think like it's hard because I love the fact that nowadays there is like so much education available to people for free. I think as a whole, people are a lot smarter and more informed than they were like, 30, 40 years ago even. And I do think like as a whole, we joke about, oh, people are so dumb, this and that, but I mean, there's so much information people have now that they didn't have before, so it's really good. But on the other hand, you've got a million people on YouTube calling themselves a voice teacher or a vocal coach. And yeah, like there are some like medical type of things and really detailed, serious topics where you want that person to actually have kind of a formal degree in it, because you don't have any other way to tell that the things they're telling you aren't going to like hurt you necessarily. Otherwise you're just like taking people's word for it. And so it's really hard without some sort of credentials. But at the same time, even though I have formal classical training, I've had to adapt that and do a lot of additional research to be able to teach harsh vocals, so even then it's not like I have to admit there's not like a degree in harsh vocals. So I mean, you've got to be an educated person with the anatomy and stuff to even extrapolate what the limited research there is. But the point is that just to be fair, I have to say that too, right? So, and also like, so yeah, it's just tough. It's like it's very hard to tell like who. And so I try really hard to always be explaining in detail and actually saying what's going on and be really clear about things, because I think the best thing is that like if someone's knowledgeable, the information should speak for itself. It should make sense to you,
Absolutely.
I mean, hopefully it makes sense. Shit.
Fingers crossed.
Well, I mean, we can't always, expect certain people to be, smart. I mean, there's definitely plenty of crazy people out there,
how many times you hit them with a shovel, you're not gonna.
Oh my God, Kyle, with hitting.
I think that my stepfather told me that you can't fix stupid. You can't hit them as hard as you can on the head, and how many times they won't get smart, fix it or something like that. He said something like that.
Not for lack of trying, though.
I mean.
Anyway, the question I was trying to ask is, when did you really start trying to mix your YouTube channel with vocal coaching, or was that always the intention?
That's how it started, actually. I never really was uploading a lot of like singing stuff, because way before my YouTube, I had been in bands, on signed bands, on labels and stuff. So I always feel like that was my singing or whatever, because that's what it was before. Like being a YouTuber wasn't quite a thing when I was first doing bands and putting out stuff on labels and stuff. And so I actually tried to launch a website where I would have lesson videos and like people could log in or whatever, maybe about 5 or 6 years ago, but I just realized like I had no capacity to manage that, because you can only be good at so many things, and I'm just definitely not like a web hosting wizard or anything. And it's actually really hard to manage people's personal data and like security and stuff like that. Now, you have things that can process payments through third parties, and I don't know, but it was still crazy, and it was very hard to like actually have a decent structure and like do it all myself. And it turned out that like the videos really were just kind of funneling people into lessons anyway. So I was like, and I also, they were like the first videos I ever made. I was like, not that great at video production by any means.
Nobody's first videos are good.
No.
Oh God, no, they're hashtag cringe a little bit, but like I put them all on YouTube. I took down the site and was like, screw it. I'm just gonna give it away for free on YouTube. And, that's how people are going to reach out to me for lessons or whatever. And was cool because even though they weren't the best like looking videos, I've left them up. A lot of them are still up there because they have so many views from the tutorial information or whatever, but the contrast is all off and I look like my head is floating or something, you know. It's not like it's not the greatest as far as the visuals, but because the information was good, it just kind of, I didn't even try to actually grow it, and it grew to almost 20,000 subscribers with me just putting up like tutorials. I mean, like, screw it. And then I started trying to do kind of reaction videos, but that were like actually explaining stuff. I do try to have like a different spin on it, and I think that's when the channel really started to grow huge at that point. So
well, I can definitely understand, because, you know, as somebody who considers themselves a shit vocalist, I like hearing an actually like intelligent person behind it saying, here's what this person's actually doing with their voice. And so like, I know that anybody else listening, and I know for a fact that there are a lot of aspiring vocalists that pay attention to this podcast that are thinking, well, what can I learn from these YouTubers? And that's what a lot of us go to YouTube for. It's to learn. Weirdly enough, how did YouTube become a source of edutainment, so to speak?
Edutainment.
You know, I think just because like people, you could just be like, how to blankety blank, you know?
Yeah,
literally.
That's how my initial videos were. It was just like, how to do this scream, how to do that scream. It's like, nobody answers simple, direct questions. Like, not everything actually needs to be a clickbait. You can actually give out information. I make my whole living. The only thing I do for a living is giving lessons. And I have plenty of videos where I'm actually explaining it, you know, but people still need lessons. They still need like individual attention. And I think there's like a lot of this not willing to actually answer a question, and that's very dissatisfying for the viewer. That's what they're there for, is to get some of their questions answered to a certain extent. So that's a big thing I think people need to be a little bit more liberal with, instead of like protecting all the secrets. Like, you know, sometimes you just need to answer the damn question and say what it is.
A wizard never reveals his secrets.
You know, and then that gets old, because it's like, I call those type of people, or YouTubers or content creators, carrot danglers, because they're always dangling the carrot in front of the horse, you know, and the horse never gets the carrot. And that's not a satisfying, like, if you will, like, user experience, you know, like, it's just not, that's not what they're there for. They want an answer. So
absolutely. And then we're back to the brie. Show us how to brie.
The brie.
Or it's like fucking you get Rick, or you get Rickrolled back in like 2006.
I still Rickroll.
Oh right! Oh my god!
Right. Happy. I was like, fuck yeah, Rick Astley, my man. On you, I love this song.
Corey Taylor, I think I remember this one where he was rickrolling at this radio station that was letting him be a DJ.
Oh yeah, I saw that video.
What?
They were panicking so hard. It was hysterical. They were like, oh.
And he's like, just sitting there in the background like.
Dude, he was messing with them so hard because it was on a commercial radio station, and I had worked in commercial radio before, and right out of college. And it's so funny because in commercial radio, like, it's not like, you know how we're so used to everything now. You just have a playlist and you have a thing, and you know, you do your thing. Like, commercial radio is like very much tied to, like, there's a guy who's picking out like what is being played in the program and the sponsors, and oh my god. And that's what was happening when Corey Taylor was doing it. They were like, because it's out of format, that, you know, it wasn't rock or metal.
Yeah, he was like, fuck yeah, let's do this. And the producer's like,
they're like having a heart attack. Yeah.
I can only imagine. I'm gonna have to go look this up later.
Oh, it's fucking hilarious.
Does oh my god. I think the only thing better than that would just be hearing him sing the song itself.
I mean,
oh yeah, that'd be dope.
Yeah,
she just do the whole nine.
Yeah, seriously. I had I saw a video, and I always share it on Christmas. He does like this Christmas thing. I don't know what it is. He does like if it ain't Christmas, or something like that. If I ain't drunk, it's not Christmas, or some shit like that. Oh, fuck yourself.
That's awesome.
It's like 2 minutes long of him telling he wants to be drunk on Hanukkah and Christmas. It's fucking great.
Celebrate them all, man. Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa.
Exactly.
There you
Why
go.
not? Why not? What do you
Well, apparently
celebrate?
Corey Taylor will be drunk for all of them.
I mean,
There you go.
I'm with him, so I'm with it.
Oh, man.
It's cold and it's dark. There's not much else to do, probably.
Yeah.
Well, it ain't that cold in Vegas, right?
No, not really. Certainly not by like your guys' standards or Wisconsin standards, which, you know, we're like brutally sub-zero cold every year. Like, you know, it's just I like, it's so funny when I have friends from warmer climates too, and they like want to go tour in October, and then there's like a show in like Quebec City, and I'm like, yo, I don't know if you understand how cold this is already in October. In fact, I'm not sure if you have fathomed this type of temperature in your lifetime,
Literally.
let alone,
Fucking
you know,
hate
like,
the
so
cold. Fucking
the
hate
people out here crack me up because actually I've lived here about 4 years, and the last few winters have been kind of cold for Vegas, where the temperature actually dropped to about 30 degrees occasionally. You know, because it is up in elevation a little bit. At about like where I'm at is about 3,000 feet on the edge of town here, so that's why it does get a little bit cold, like a little bit colder occasionally. But this year, like, it has barely dipped below 40, and you know, it snows sometimes for like 5 minutes every winter too. So by Midwest standards, this is very mild. It's like spring or fall, but it's so funny. All the Vegas people are like, you know, like they have hats on, and like,
Oh, yeah.
I'm still like in a sweatshirt. Like, it's weird. People say you change and adapt, but I don't know. 50 degrees feels the same as it does anywhere else.
Yeah.
I don't think.
I mean,
You know.
back when I was like a kid, we went to Florida, me and my family, and it was like the coldest week that Florida ever had with us going on vacation, of course. But back in New York, it was like -2 and shit, like snowing like crazy.
Exactly.
Yeah, so like we're out there and it's like 55 or 60 degrees, and they're like bundled up in like heavy coats and shit, and we're just running around with fucking
Shorts.
and we're like, oh, yeah.
That's the thing, is like Midwestern, like when you have those standards. I mean, whenever I used to fly out for NAMM every year in Anaheim, it would be like the average Wisconsin February January temperature is about -14 usually Fahrenheit. You know, it's just probably same as you guys. And I would get to Anaheim and it'd be 63 degrees, and my California friends would be like, it's cold this year, and I'd be like, it's so hot. Like 70-degree temperature difference. I'd be like, give me the sweater off.
Yeah, literally.
So, but it's so funny, like I've lived out west for a while now, and I don't really feel like, I don't know, it's just that I don't dislike the heat, and I do dislike the cold, but I don't feel like less tolerant of it. Like when I go outside and see people wearing, it's like 50 degrees wasn't that cold. Like, why are you wearing like a parka? Like,
yeah. As long as it's not windy, fuck it, you're fine. Yeah. Right?
Even when it's windy, it was windy today, and I went for a walk, and because the temperature is like so mild, the sun was out, like even the wind wasn't bad at all, like not at all. So
I woke up at like 20, it was fucking 29 degrees out. I'm sitting there with like this sweatshirt on. I'm like, oh, fuck this shit. I'm not ready for
I
this
know,
shit.
I went out just like this earlier today with the family to go grocery shopping and stuff. It's not bad out right now at all.
I mean, well, obviously this morning was like terrible, but later on in the day it wasn't that bad.
40 degrees. It felt nice out. Like,
yeah, especially when it went up 20 degrees since I left.
I've been having to explain to my son every day, there's no snow outside. We can't go play in the snow yet, and he's upset because he wants to go play in the snow.
You're destroying.
Yeah, it is kind of unusual that it's that warm right now, because it should be kind of colder and snowy.
Yeah, I mean, we have gotten snow. Hold on, my cat just got into something. Hold on.
Oh my god, go get your cat.
Hey,
do you have any pets?
I ain't gotta get up. My girl's got it.
Yeah, I have a dog, Chompy. He's a Boston Terrier. But he's not allowed in this room usually because he farts and they're horrific. So, he's cute, God. But God, he's not allowed in here.
Yeah, we got a 60 to 70% Siamese with a short hair in him.
He's a little asshole.
Can he's a little ass.
Can it like flush the toilet and stuff? Is it like super?
Oh my god, I wish.
He's
I wish.
fucking, I've noticed since he's gotten older, his Siamese is starting to come out even more. I've noticed.
I can't let my cat in this room because he starts knocking shit over.
Oh my god.
And like, I don't know if my setup is, I don't know if my setup is like yours, but this is literally a 5x5.
Yeah, he's gonna fuck with you too.
It looks a little smaller than what you've got going on.
Here he is.
Oh, there's the boy.
This is a.
He's being a dick.
He wants me.
I don't know. I think this might be like.
Oh, what?
7x5 or 8x5 or something.
I envy it. It's still better.
Yeah, but you know, it is really hard to dampen a larger space. When I had a bigger room, I felt like it wasn't dampened at all. So even this one, like I had to like coat it with foam. But then I just bought for my boyfriend who's also a singer that eyeball thing that goes over.
Are you talking about? Oh, I think I've seen that advertised a couple of times across my Facebook and stuff.
Yeah, and I was like, man, what do I need all this foam for?
Well, if it actually works, then you don't need it.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it works. It's really good. That's why I got it for him, because he's like the loudest singer I've ever met in my entire
That was where I was
life.
with that, because depending on how loud you sing will depend on how many sounds reverberate and get picked up, and it's a fucking nightmare.
Yes. So I got him one of those. I was like, what does the loudest singer in the whole world need?
Some thick ass foam.
More foam.
To start
More
tracking
things with
outside.
foam to sing.
Track outside, you're good. Go outside.
Yeah. But yes, then there is more solutions. Like there's all these little things now, you know, that like curve over.
Wave
like back
thing.
in the day, like you didn't have that. There's the ISO Vox too, but it's just very expensive, I feel. So but they work. I've tried them at NAMM. You guys know what that is, the ISO Vox?
I don't think I've heard of it.
I think I've heard of it. I know I've heard of it, but I don't. It's drunk.
Stick
Is
your
it like
head
a
in
little
it.
box or a box? Sorry.
Yeah, it's like you put your head, so the microphone comes into it, and it's like you flip the top down, like you can lean like a phone or an iPad in there. So I guess if you wanted to use like Google Remote Desktop or something, you could operate your DAW from there. But what I don't like about them, they work really good. So just no, I'm not slamming on the product at all. Like I've stuck my head in it at NAMM.
It's okay to slam on here. It's okay.
No. Quality product. Give me one for VoiceHacks. No, no, it is really quality, but it costs $1,000, you know, so it's kind of expensive. And what I don't like is that if my head is in something, like it's very hard, like sitting here in front of the DAW, I can just be like looking at it and like hitting the space bar and like singing and like leaning in. But if I'm got my head in the thing, then I'm gonna have to like stick it out. I guess maybe like if I have an iPad with like a remote desktop, I can be like this, you know. But I think this is gonna be really hard to punch in takes and stuff with my head. If someone else is recording you, it's fine. But I think if you record yourself, it might be hard.
Okay, so now that I'm actually looking at this, Kyle, have you seen it before?
No, I have not actually.
So now that I'm actually looking at it, this looks like an 80s dystopian idea of what the future is supposed to look like. Look at this fucking thing.
Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, like I'm not okay with this. Personally, I'm okay with claustrophobia in a recorded setting because I feel like I'm going to be more passionate, but I feel like I lose all passion in any kind of vocal recording if I'm going to be sticking my head in a box like that.
Yeah, like that's what I was saying. Like it works. It's really damp. Like I have some vocal students like in apartments using them, and it works really good. But at the same time, right, your head is in a box, which is like a very claustrophobic thing because that flap flips up, you know, it closes you in there, obviously, or it wouldn't work, obviously. But yeah, and I just don't like. It's hard to like come around. And again, like every time you want to punch in a take, like it becomes a little bit more. If you're just sitting in front of your DAW and you can just be like, blah, like
yeah.
So it's a lot easier whether you have a thing or a bubble or I don't know.
I also don't like being like part of the Saw movie, like put my head in this fucking box.
Oh God.
If I hear,
That's what I'm saying. That's why he was
I'm
saying,
gonna
like,
lose
this
my
movie.
mind. If I hear you want to play a game, that's it. I'm done. I'm not playing. I'm not doing vocals anymore. I'm done.
Producers on the outside.
One of my vocal clients who's a voice actor has some kind of like pop-up booth that he has his lessons in, that he also does his voice acting stuff in, and the computer's in there, but this one he can't even like reach his arms out. I don't know what this thing is, but it's like an actual portable booth kind of thing. So
do you think he made it himself?
I actually don't know. I gotta ask him, but I think it's a thing he bought. I don't know, or maybe it's something someone custom makes. I don't know, but yeah, you gotta get creative with this stuff.
Absolutely.
Use your closet or whatever.
Well, when you got a small amount of space to work with, yeah, I mean, get creative. I definitely have to work on something for just the desk itself, because fitting an actual desk in here, not an option. Not when your door opens this way, you know.
No, yeah, even mine, like one of my friends was trying to give me this like bigger desk that was nice, and they really wanted me to take it because they're giving it away, but I was like, dude, I can't. The measurements you said, like, I can't fit it in my workspace, like it's so small. So you know, it was unfortunate. So
it was a miracle just getting my chair in here.
I was surprised, like, because I've seen that room, Pat, when we moved you in. Like, that was a small ass room.
That's not even the worst part. Behind the black
is the heater.
This is the water heater.
Water heater, yeah.
So I've got even less space.
Wow.
I'm just glad it don't make a lot of noise.
But that's good though. I mean, you got to be able to like keep the noise down, you know. So
yeah, except for the fact that I know my wife can hear me out in every other room, and so that makes me wonder, like, what does my neighbor on this side hear? Does he just like hear at like 11 o'clock at night just just be wondering like, what the fuck is going on over there?
Right? Like, what's happening?
I'm shooting those ads that you see on Pornhub, those monster porns.
Yes, great. That's the voice acting I'm getting into.
Right
there.
Sure.
Right. You're like, sorry, I had to bring all my work home now, dude. It's COVID, dude.
Yeah,
COVID.
blame that COVID.
Sorry, I had to bring it home. I had to bring the setup and everything.
I did have a studio. I was working out of just COVID, man.
Shit.
God damn. COVID
not
hasn't
because of COVID on people. They can't say no. It's like a
God.
Seinfeld or like a Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Pat, you're in a band? No, I just shoot like dinosaur porn. That's what I do. What?
You just haven't heard it before because we were at a different studio.
That makes me wonder what porn studios are actually doing now, because they probably can't do a lot because of COVID. But hey, I mean, that's not my worry right now.
I mean, they're probably doing exactly what the WWE and wrestling and stuff like that. They're just testing everybody. And then
yeah, I was just gonna say, like, if it's just like an isolated crew of people, they can just test everybody.
They can still do it. It's not...
Because I mean, that industry, I mean, if you really break it down, was already set up to test everybody for other.
Yeah,
that's a really good
adding
point.
One to the list is gonna really make a difference. No. Like, oh, now we have to also test you for this. Okay.
Shit, I can't do it.
Right.
Got the COVID. Sorry, I don't want to. I don't want to spread the COVID to all your actresses.
I can do all the AIDS and all the other tests.
Oh God.
Do it,
Kyle.
No COVID test. That one's taking it too far.
Not.
I'm not. You can stick a cotton swab down my pee hole, but not down my nose. That's
no, absolutely not.
God. Oh. Both of those suck.
What?
Oh.
That's worse.
That's the joke I'm making.
That was the joke.
Okay.
That was the joke.
Okay. I was like, wait, are you
suck.
serious? I was like,
oh, that's God.
Like the other one sounds way worse. So.
No, I don't even want to think about that. Pat, why'd you say that? I don't even want to think about that. Right?
That's how they do a lot of the tests for men, I think. Not that I would know, but I've heard.
So tell me, how do you know, Mary? How do you know that?
I don't know. I've heard things.
I've heard things. My friends are very deviant.
Look, I've been saying
I've heard things.
I've been saying for a long time, we need more feminine energy on this show anyways, but then I realized the kind of shit we talk about on the show, and then I'm like, damn, no wonder.
Well, you know, you guys will evolve, I guess, you know,
I don't know.
have more
It is what it
female
is.
guests and things.
We don't know.
I think she's the only she's the second woman that's been on the show. Is that
Yes.
right? Because the
Yep.
only other woman that's been on the show has been forgive me for fucking up her name, from Lucrexia. Yeah. Man, my God. We're gonna have to crack down. We're gonna have to really crack down. This whole female representation in metal is a real problem as it is. So
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's always nice when any art or whatever is equally representative of all the people in the world, but at the same time you can't like force people's interest, you know. I mean, that'd be the ideal, but I've never felt like metal was intentionally excluding women. I just felt like most of the women I know were just not particularly interested in it. They're free to participate, you know. I've been doing it for a long time, you know, and when there was even fewer women, like if that can be imagined, but there was. And that being said, even like 12 years ago when one of my bands was shopping to record labels, one of the big labels that spent money on us and everything ultimately didn't sign us because the main dude could not still do the female in the metal band thing, and I was doing harsh vocals and everything. So that was like as recent as 12 years. So like I guess on one hand there were people like saying stuff like that, but even with that kind of stuff I did not feel like it was excluding me from participating. You know, most people were not discouraging. If you could play or sing, everybody was like happy.
there you go.
As long as you could do what you're there to do. So yeah, it is hard, you know, and we talk about representation nowadays, but the one thing about representation is you have to think about interest. If like a certain demographic, if that's just not their interest, you don't need to be intentionally excluding people to have that be the case. Now I don't know why a lot of women aren't more interested in metal. I mean, maybe it is that they haven't seen, but there's been women stepping up for a while and doing stuff, and it's not like necessarily like there's a few more, but it's not necessarily like bringing them in droves. It just kind of seems to be like it's not that high of a percentage of women that are interested in it. But I don't feel like the bands, like the male bands, are intentionally exclusive. Like I don't feel like the lyrics, it's not the 80s. I don't feel like things are particularly like people aren't like, oh baby, you know, like it's not like Dr. Roxo. I don't know. Yeah. It's not really like that. I don't feel like it's not particularly gratuitous or something. I don't know. I feel like if you like, I don't know, like periphery lyrics or something are gonna like drive women away or anything. So I don't really understand what the interest is, but I think a lot of it comes down to interest, because even me having been in it, even having like heard a couple things about, well, I don't know if I'm down with the woman in metal. I mean, I still got signed to another big, like equally big metal label at that same time. So I don't know. I just don't feel like there's like anything preventing women from doing it. And almost all the guys, like all the weird stuff, I've had crazy things happen with men in my life, but like not very many of them were from the metal scene or had anything to do with metal. You know, actually most of the guys in the scene are not behaving in a way that's gonna turn you off of being in metal too bad. I don't think so. It's weird. I think it's more of like an interest thing, and I don't know why though. Like I don't know.
I'm sure your analytics say something similar, but ours say something like 2% of women follow the show, and I'm sure there are more women interested in your content, but still, like seeing that big of a gap was kind of a shock to me.
It was that, well, me coming from a woman's perspective, I'm just knowing how few women are like in the audience and in bands in general, like it didn't surprise me at all. I mean, I have a little bit more, like I have maybe 15% more, or maybe so like maybe 10 to 15% are women maybe, and then the other 80% are men, 85%. But I do feel like so that's a good example, right? I'm a female vocalist representing, like talking to people, like anybody, showing being a female doing the thing, and I'm not necessarily getting any more women interested in it, let's put it that way. So even when you have someone representing and again, not necessarily intentionally excluding people. The weird thing we're all finding out in this new world of inclusivity is that sometimes it's just demographics interests are just not in that thing for whatever reason, and you can't make them be interested. So even though people would always like to have more representation, the people in those groups actually need to be interested though in that thing. Yeah. And I don't know why a lot of women are not. Even my vocal clientele, it's the same amount of percentages. And again, there's nothing discouraging or excluding them from doing it. The door's open. So I don't know.
What I will say is that in the last like couple years, I've seen some very impressive female harsh vocals, and I don't know what changed, but I always knew it was there. I mean, Cerebral Bore was like my example in the past of that, and like I wrestled a bear once, and then seeing, you know, I guess my couple of examples are like Ginger. Now Spirit Box is doing really well.
Yeah.
There's a couple, others, but I'm definitely blanking them.
There was one that I listened to in high school, Bunny and the Bear. That old band.
Those are dudes.
Well, no, I think there was a female vocalist at one point because they got rid of the high clean vocalist for a female at one point.
The Bunny and the Bear were definitely dudes, as far as I
believe.
knew.
No, they were dudes when I first got into them, and I didn't realize how the big dude did so high vocals, clean vocals, and I believe. Don't quote me, but I think that's a female singer now. Don't quote me.
I haven't followed that band in years, so I don't know.
Me either. So
yeah, but do you know there is some women really coming out and flexing right now. Like definitely like Lauren Hart from Once Human would definitely be another one. I think that's, you know, really killing it on the harsh vocals and everything like that. But again, even though there's more, like I'm not sure it will ever be 50-50, you know, because we don't see that in the instruments either, you know. We see a few front people, and I don't see a lot of women instrumentalists also joining. There's probably even fewer, you know, joining the bands and stuff like that. So I don't know. Again, I don't know. And I've talked with friends who have other podcasts, and they're like, how can we get women to be on? You know, and I'm like, I don't know, you know, it's like, I don't know why there's not more women doing like audio recording. I don't know why there's not more, because again, I've been doing all this stuff for a really long time, like when the percentages were different, and it is very surprising to me how much time has passed and how few women like have, you know, joined the party. And like I said, I really don't feel like there's anyone stopping anybody at all. Like I don't think anyone's ever just like walked up to me and been like, no, you're a female. Like even like a zillion years ago, I would record like my local friends' grindcore bands and stuff like that. And I mean, like I said, there's like no female engineers then, but there's no female engineers now. So it didn't have anything to do with that. They were like, oh, you'll record us for $800, like or whatever, like a whole album.
Done.
I got
like,
you.
They didn't and nobody said anything to me, and nobody paid me disrespect. You know what I mean? Like I've had crazy experiences with guys, but it's never really been a part of the music scene. So I don't really understand. I know it's not the case for all women, but I don't feel like I really truly can't say that it's unwelcoming or anything. I think it's just like an interest thing, and I don't really get
blessed.
Yeah. I don't know.
No, seriously, because you know there's horror stories out there, so
sure.
Count your blessings there.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I've had crazy things happen, just not for me. I've been lucky that they haven't really been music scene related. You know, so I think all women have like crazy stories, but at the same time, the crazy story, people just being weird and goofy and not like necessarily like Me Too kind of things or anything like that.
Oh, you're a woman. Hey, I'm a vocalist. Hey, shh. Like what? It's not nothing.
No, see, like that's what I'm saying. That hasn't happened to me, but I do know sometimes there are occasions when that has happened to some people. So I can't really say, you know, but like it like stuff like that's happened to me outside of music. That's what I'm saying. I just feel like musicians are always the people who are like more open-minded, not less open-minded.
Yeah.
So
We should spread that message right there.
Be more open-minded.
No, that the music industry is more open-minded.
That too.
But
yeah, I mean, I ran into a lot more closed minds outside of the music industry,
Well,
you know, by far.
that's just people in general.
Yeah. So, you know, as far as like regard to women and this and that, like a lot of it's been outside of the industry. I feel like metal people are pretty cool, and like if you can play or sing and you can own it, nobody's really gonna stop you.
They may have shit on you, but you know, it's the elitist or whatever.
Sometimes, yeah, I do feel like people are always like wanting me. I guess one slight thing is I do feel people are always wanting me to like prove that I can do everything. Like even though it's I guess the thing about everything being available to people nowadays is like why people are so lazy to Google something. Like literally it's in the palm of your hand. You don't have to get off the couch and just be like, and like they don't still though. So it surprised me like when people on YouTube are like, first of all, like I demonstrate a lot of the stuff in my videos, but the other thing is that like all you got to do is Google me, like, and you can look at my bands and all the different stuff I've done, and like it would take like 5 minutes, you know, it's not very hard, and people will still be like, can you really do it, you know? And like want me to like prove it.
Yeah,
do the raw.
Talking to Andrew Patterson. Yeah, Andrew Patterson, who like, picked up a guitar and started playing on Facebook. Everybody's mind blew up, and they were like, because usually they're just used to him being like, do the raw. You don't play guitars. You just do RARs. Do the raw.
You need to chill.
Yeah,
you need to chill.
It's weird. It's super weird. And even I started uploading like more like demonstration tutorials because I'm like literally I have like whole albums like doing this, but for some reason this is too hard to Google. Whatever, right? Like what is this for this treachery person? And but people were like, oh, you're a classically trained singer, you should demonstrate opera. And it's like, God, it's like that's not what the channel's about. I'm gonna do it just to do it, but it's kind of so funny because it's like everyone just wants you to flex just to flex, like just to do it. And I'm like, sometimes I'm like, why? I'm like, for me personally, like musical theater or classical hold like zero interest to me anymore. You know, I spent so many years doing that. Like I've just been over it for a long time. But my next couple of videos, I'm just gonna do a couple demonstrations of those things just to say that I did them, just to do the flexing. There you go. Or whatever.
Here's your link I can send you next time you ask me to do it.
And then I'm gonna just be like, that's it. Now we're back to harsh vocals because plus too, it's like I'm always like, why? Like there's so many opera singers, there are so many musical theater singers, there are so many teachers doing normal stuff. Like, why do you give a shit if I do the normal stuff? Like, because I'm here to do the harsh vocals. And also too, in some of my, like I said, in some of my bands, like I have done all that stuff. Like one of the last bands I was in that was on Peaceful Records was this band called White Empress, and it was kind of black metal. And so there's like literal, like full opera singing and stuff on, you know what I mean? Like it takes like 5 minutes to go look it up and prove that you can do it. Like, oh, they just gave me a degree. Like I just
walked in and said, that one.
I was like, I'll take the opera one. Like, you know, like it's just so funny.
This is the hat I'm putting on.
But I decided, you know, screw it. Like I was very surprised to get those comments after my first couple of stuff, but I'm just going to do it just to do it. But
there you go.
You know, again, it's sort of like YouTube audience is always like flex on us. You know, they're so snobby. They'll be like, prove that you can.
That's just people on the internet in general.
Yeah.
It's funny how like the people from YouTube and Reddit are almost always kind of the same personality types.
Oh yeah, big time.
Yeah,
almost always. I gotta stay away from Reddit, man. That shit's toxic.
That's why
I will not go on Reddit, and at all because I know people talk about me out there. So
I don't want the mean comment.
So you're saying when this is done to post it on Reddit? Is what you're saying.
Post it all over Reddit.
Yeah.
You know, but it was so funny because I did make the mistake of looking at Reddit when the Helion Prime album came out, and it was just like people like you know, giving their like unsolicited vocal opinion, especially because my band has had like other vocalists before, and so like everyone's comparing, and tell my band, I was like, don't go on Reddit,
please, for the love of God.
Fuck Reddit, do not go on there for the love of God, because but that's one cool thing about being a vocal instructor is like people's like literal opinions really kind of don't matter as much to me anymore, because it becomes, when you have like a technical perspective on vocals, if you're achieving like the technical accuracy in whatever style you're doing, I mean, that's your voice then at that point. And then after that point, if you know it's as technically accurate and as good as you can do, then everything else is just subjective opinion, you know. And if someone doesn't like it, it's just kind of, well, you know, some people have like particular vocal tones they really like, and everybody's different, you know. So at that point, so I don't really take it honestly, like, I mean, I joke, but I don't really take it personally, because if I feel like I did a technically a good job, like, I don't know what people think of it, then at that point it's just like, well, this is like your opinion, man, you know.
Yeah.
Your opinion, man.
It's just like your opinion, bro.
So have you done a rap album yet? Is that on the table?
Oh God, no. I mean, I can. I have like a lot of lyrics memorized to rap songs.
Oh God, no.
From the 90s. But no, like, but although like some of these fast, harsh vocalists kind of put you through your paces.
They are coming out of the woodwork, and I am respecting it.
I love it. I'm all for it.
Yeah. Some of these guys are almost doing the equivalent though, right? In harsh vocals. And I think like the first guy to really start doing that was like to like open that door was Phil Bozeman. Definitely like saw as the law.
Yeah.
You know, like that's the one that started all. And now there's all these guys doing it, and it's like, holy shit!
Yeah,
like the game,
like guys from. I mean, obviously Attila for rapping, for Franz for rapping.
Yeah.
You got Hunt the Dinosaur.
Well, I would say even before all of that, we had Pop Goes Punk, and everybody was trying to, but nobody could actually do those songs live. So that was.
Yes, yeah, that's.
I mean, my most.
And then you have people like Roddy Radke who like literally rap.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I was just listening to Alone by him like like a couple hours.
That's when he's like, with the Gucci sneaks.
All I do is whip, straight up hustle and grind.
Right, that's when he's like, Charlie Sheen.
Yeah, Charlie Sheen.
That's great. I'm not a hater at all, but I actually met him briefly once on this MTV thing I did, but the whole thing did not make the cut into the episode. So
you hear that, MTV? You fucked up. You done fucked up.
Yeah, I mean,
so MTV. First of all, if you're listening, we made it. Second of all, what the fuck?
Yo, no. It was this episode of Made that I did where we were coaching this kid to do screaming, and then she wanted to meet Ronnie Radke. He was like her favorite dude or whatever. So like we took her on the bus, and you know, he gave her all this like vocal advice and this and that, but like they cut it from the episode for some reason. People don't realize like it's 30 days of filming for a 45-minute episode, so it's kind
a lot of stuff
hard to include everything. Yeah, you have to cut out like
it's the same thing with movies. Like it could take a whole year, and then they cut shit
of it, and it's just so like there's a lot of people and stuff that they just and you know, you're not there in the editing room, so you're not sure like why or why not they chose to cut that scene or whatever.
But yeah, man, it is what it is.
Yeah.
Like there's a couple of different like weird vocal styles that have kind of come out in the last year that I really wanted to ask you about, and one of them is definitely the tunnel throat thing. That I think started maybe like 3 years ago, but have you done anything on your YouTube channel at all talking about that?
So when kids on YouTube started calling things tunnel throat, yeah, it's actually been for like a while now.
I thought so.
I've been hearing these terms for several years, but it can mean a lot of different things, because that's what was one of my goals with starting the channel, was to start standardizing terms for harsh vocals, and not just like trying to standardize them, but to make them match the anatomy, so it's like clearer to understand, so we can be like, this is this and this is that, because if it doesn't match what you're doing, it's hard to do them, it's hard to control them. And so tunnel throat can apply to any low sound, but because most of the people on YouTube aren't like vocal researchers or even super knowledgeable about like the types of anatomy and physics that create the sounds, they're going to call them all different things. It generally refers to something like really low, but that has been 6 like different things. Like if you watch what one kid calls tunnel throat and then another kid calls tunnel throat, it's completely different. In general, I do know it to be like the low, like the gutturals, like the low fries, like we were talking about. However, it's all like using tongue positions to get the larynx to lower, which will give us lower pitches and harmonic overtones. But it can be done in false chord, it can be done in fry. And what I kind of don't like about like the random YouTuber is they don't understand how this stuff works in here. And so a lot of people will encourage people to try to actually voluntarily pull their larynx down during this sound, but you can't actually do that. You can get your larynx to lower, but it has to do with reflexes and the shapes. I've taught a lot of people to do low, gurgly, whatever you want to call it. I don't know if you want to call it tunnel throat, toilet bowl. Like, I don't know.
Toilet bowl.
I call it all like, yeah, usually that's a form of low fry, and it involves like very specific tongue shapes. But the vocal cords are usually closed, but what makes it sound low is the thing that kids are calling tunnel throat, which is our larynx moves lower in position. So, you know, your shape in here is changing, but it does that reflexively due to vowel shapes. And we actually try to mitigate a lot of these reflexes in clean singing and in opera singing and stuff. But vowel shapes will make it move, and you don't need to be like pulling on your throat. And the problem is that anatomically it's not wired through your direct controls. So then when people are trying to like move their larynx down, it's like not a thing you can consciously do necessarily. And you can do it by like making a sound or a shape that will make it do that, but not like directly pulling on it like you're thinking of. And then if you try to directly, you'll feel an awful lot of throat strain and stuff. So you know, I teach a lot of people these low positions and the tongue shapes and how to do it in lessons. I don't have a lot of tutorials on it just because I feel like it's so hard and it's super advanced, and there are just some things I don't want people just trying from a video necessarily. And that's one of them. Is I would rather you guys kind of have more individualized attention, because if you start really pulling on these muscles here too hard and doing it wrong, those are like the most extreme sounds. Probably the most difficult thing someone can do is like the low fry type of gutturals, period, with the weird tongue shapes. So it's also like literally the most advanced vocal thing of anything to do. And that's why everyone goes nuts when we hear like Phil Bozeman do it or whatever. So
like Alex Terrible, Dickie Allen, and shit like that.
Yeah,
exactly. And Alex Terrible's the guy. So like we have to also think about physics, and like, so when I do like low fries, even though I have a very unusually low pitched voice for a female, I still don't have an Adam's apple. You know, men have an Adam's apple because your larynx grows really long at puberty. That's why you go through that terrible, like the squawking, you know, because, and like one day your nephew has like a kid's voice, and the next day he's like, yo, like on the phone. And the reason is because your larynx, I mean, an actual man's larynx can be 7 to 10 millimeters longer than an adult woman's. So that is huge. That's like a triangular shape. Like the rest of your body is corresponding to that. So the visibility of it doesn't necessarily mean that it's longer or shorter. Because like in the case of a guy like Alex Terrible, he's huge, and we can't see what is obviously an enormous larynx.
The man is a unit. That's it.
Yeah. You know, so you have to think of physics of sound. So a lot of male vocalists, their low fries can be insane. In the case of a guy like Phil Bozeman, he's actually not a big man. He's about the same height I am. But why can't I get my low fries to go as low as his? Because his Adam's apple comes out like to his chin, and he has like a baritone vocal range when he clean sings.
Just
so
listen to when he
indicative.
talks.
Yeah, this is extremely indicative of longer vocal folds, so then within that 7 to 10 millimeters, basses and baritones have longer chords. And then also there's 3-dimensional like densities. So I have like a very low range voice without the length because they're like super fat and dense, and that's why it's kind of unusual for women to have, because our chords don't lengthen. Most women have high voices, And that's why it's also equally rare for a man to have like an Anthony Green voice. It's very popular, but the actual percentage of guys with a voice that high, because he would have an Adam's apple too and fully length vocal cords, but they're going to be really, really thin to be that high of a voice, just like physics of strings. So we have to really understand that when we hear a guy, some of these guys, their low fries can be indistinguishable from low false chord, which is false chord is doing it with your vocal cords open. But when you can hear someone going for a long ass time, you got it pretty sure the vocal cords are closed. Your time limit, and also low false chord with the tongue shapes does not have like a burpee quality like the toilet bowl. So for example, like low false chords with like guttural shapes they come out deep, but you're gonna lose. It's gonna be like it's like not. It's not particularly, and you can't go very long, maybe like 4 or 5
That's
beats.
my biggest issue with false chord is that I can't hold them out.
No, you can't. You'll never be able to. And if you pay attention to false chord screamers, they're writing in like 4-word phrases a lot because they can't. So when we hear someone being like, well, this is how low my low fry goes. I was using the same tongue technique there as Phil Bozeman, and it's not ever going to go as low as Phil Bozeman. Because even among dudes, he's probably to that 10 millimeter side, because people can be physically exceptional even among the other people doing it, you know what I mean? So there's always like one guy who's like the Guinness Book guy. This is with athletics or vocals, but in general, my male vocal clients, their low fries are pretty much universally always lower than mine. The girl from Cerebral Bore, though, those are low fries because she has tutorials and stuff, and it's with the tongue technique, and it's very clear in the tutorials that's what's happening. And with that particular tongue technique, she was able to get a woman's larynx to go as low as I've ever heard in a fry. But most of the women that we hear, whether they realize it or not, because, you can't feel these things. When I first started false chording and screaming, like, I didn't know what the hell was going on. I just knew that I wasn't going hoarse. That's how I started researching it, because I was like, well, how come that's not fucking up my voice? I just keep doing this all day long, But the point was that, a lot of women will do false chords on the lows. And this is because with our larynx the size that it is, now we're talking about a noise sound, and like even someone like me with a super low voice, like I can't quite get my fry gutturals to go as low as I want. So a lot of times I switch to false chords. I did a Thyarda's Murder cover, and I could not in the amount of time that the way that he writes, I didn't have enough time to switch to false chords. So I did them low fry, but I felt like I could not, like again, like CJ, like I could not get to the depths. I did a pretty good job, I think, but again, we have to think about physics, and people need to be generous with themselves. Like everybody's different. You can't just, if I was a bigger woman, like Brienne of Tarth or something, maybe like I could have like some serious low gutturals, because I would imagine you could make up for some of the larynx space if you had like a big chest cavity, if you were like 6 feet or taller, maybe. But
so does that explain why my lows have gotten lower since I put on 30 pounds?
Not unless your larynx is bigger.
Oh, you know what? That's where all the weight went.
You know what? That's where it went. I was wondering why my neck
just got better at your technique, that's all. It kind of settles more, and it can settle and get lower as you get better at it. It definitely needs to be practiced. So that's probably you're just probably better at it now. But, yeah, because I can't get mine though to go all that low. I think like by themselves, maybe they don't sound that bad, but like if I actually put them up next to someone else who has them really low, like a male vocalist with a huge larynx, like I had a guy who was actually 6'8", and I found the Instagram clip the other day that I taught to do the low fries. 6'8" is the biggest vocal client I've ever had, and if you can imagine, his fry gutturals were like out of this world. I was so envious. Yeah, I'm gonna repost the Instagram clip because I found it the other day, and I was like, God, this turned out so good. He just so sometimes even though your body doesn't do a technique, if you know how it's made and you can teach the phonations, like I can show them in my larynx, but then when they do it in a different size body, like it has a totally different tone to it, like again, like a lot of guys like, I want to be like Alex Terrible. I'm like, well, can't all be like Alex Terrible. Like you got to be that size of a man. I mean, and it's kind of unusual. It's not normal. So.
Okay, so what you need to do right now is you need to go hit the fucking gym, dude.
Like hard.
I think that is something that is underestimated, is that somebody like myself who doesn't hit the gym, who isn't, physically active like that, stands a huge disadvantage, because doing vocals is something of a sport, and the more physically well you are, the better you're going to be at it, and the more you're going to be able to sustain yourself in like a live setting. So
oh yeah, and like even when I went on tour a couple years ago in Helion, we were on tour with Unleash the Archers and Striker, and the guitar player in Unleash the Archers like works out all the time. Like he would hit the gym like anytime like we pulled up to some place, like 'cause it's very hard to work out on tour. Like he'd just go work out or whatever. But then I would watch him on stage and he would run around the stage like he was so light on his feet. You know what I mean? He looked like it was like effortless. He was just like boing, boing, boing,
gliding.
And I was like just watching him like night after night. I was like, God, I gotta get my shit together. Like I need to move like that, You feel so heavy otherwise. And then too, yeah, you're right. Like your breathing is like, you're like up there like, oh my God, because it's so hot too. It's way harder than even practicing at band rehearsal. It's, so watching guys that are like in super good shape, just like bounce around the stage like they're 18 and it's effortless. You're like, shit, like I have a lot of work to do, so.
I personally always go back to that video of the dude from Harm's Way, because he's a fucking tank.
He's crazy.
Watching him move around and still keep up, like, oh my God, that's goals.
That's what I'm saying. Like looking that light on your feet with that much weight on your body. I mean, it's amazing. And when it looks like that light and he almost like he can hop around, like that's what you're looking for. Like, who still looks like that is like Bruce Dickinson, I mean, I don't know how that guy's again, the exception rather than the rule, of course, but he looks like that at a very old age. So, it just shows you like, yeah, if you stay in shape and yeah, then again, like if you're doing harsh vocals or I don't know, I feel like actually it's harder for me to do clean singing on stage, but the air, you've got to do like a lot of cardio and you really do. It's very tough to keep up, I think, with a live. But that's why so many of the people that are front people are like fitness nuts. I mean, look at Angela Gasso and the chick from Once Human also. They're just like shred, all the time because all they do is false chord. So they're just like blowing air out constantly. So they're like, like ripped, because they got to do that every night and it's really difficult. Or, well, Angela's kind of retired from it now, but you get the idea.
I'm not going to lie. I had never heard of Once Human until you had brought it up. So this is one of those bands that I'm definitely going to have to do some research on.
Oh, you're going to love it. It's super badass. Yeah, super badass. And she's a false chord screamer, but she does goes out with Camelot too as like the guest vocalist or whatever. She can clean sing pretty well too, but yeah, just again another example of person who's like staying incredibly fit to like make the harsh vocals come out. It's like pretty demanding, I would say.
Hell yeah. Now my only other question before we start to wrap this thing up was talking about the idea or the concept rather of merging vocal fry and false chord vocals, kind of doing them either like interchangeably or at the same time, because I hear a lot of people talk about that, but the concept just kind of baffles me.
Well, if we're defining false chord screams as the vocal cords being open, which is where it gets its name because it flaps your false cords more than any other distorted sound. We flap them around in some of the other sounds, but a lot of the times we're using other tissues like the soft palate, the uvula, the sinuses, like all this white noise we're making is just crap shaking around in there. And really, that's all it is. And but it sounds crazy, but that's all it is. But you can do that with your vocal cords open, or you can do that with them compressed and the fry scream. So I think one confusing thing for a long time is that there's been a couple people who've called like anything loud a false chord scream. And that's kind of a something I want to clear up, because we can do a very loud fry, we can do very loud false chord, and we can do both of them high, mid, and low within their own context. We can hear that low false chord sounds different than low fry, high false chord sounds different than high fry, but you can do both in either. And I think when you make that clear, then it's like, okay, no, you cannot actually false chord scream simultaneously with a fry scream. Your folds have to be open or they have to be closed. They can't do both. However, there's many vocalists that are doing both in the same song, and even in the same sentence. They're going to switch over to it because that's
like
their
in the same
preferred
breath
thing. Yeah,
I've heard some people do that.
So, yeah, some people can do that. It's very difficult. But for example, Spirit Box, to me, very clearly, there are sentences where she does fry, typically for the mid and high, and then typically for the lows, she switches to false chords. And the tones change, and also the breath changes when she does that. You can see it, you can hear the tone changing. And again, this is a female vocalist doing this on the lows. Whether they know it or not, they're probably choosing that tone because it's going to get them a little bit lower, probably, you know, with our kind of larynx size. And then also we have a band like Shadow of Intent, you know, for example, and I'm pretty sure that's what he's doing as well. When I've watched like some of his like covers, where you can really tell are like covers where people are just like sitting in their room and the audio is really raw, and then it becomes very obvious like that there's some switching going on, you know, at that point. But again, a lot of these people don't know they're doing it. They're just like, I like this growly tone and I like this tone, and they may not understand. You know, you can do a lot with your voice and learn a lot through imitation and sounds, and you can't feel a lot of stuff in here, so you may not know if the vocal cords are open or closed. So really, in the truest definitions, you cannot do fry and false chord at the same time. The confusion comes from the fact that there are some people who consider fry to just be the chord closure by itself. However, I don't think any of the major vocalists that do fry are sticking with that, so I only view that as a step. So that's like this, where when you close your vocal cords and you make a fry scream, you're passing air between them, but it's like kind of like that, like the way your lips would look if you push the air. That's what it looks like when you watch it. And that only makes a little bit of white noise. It makes some of the white noise in fry, but very little, like less than 10%. It's like, ah. So it's like quieter than my talking voice. So some people call that fry and only that, even though the vocal cords are closed. When we flap the other tissues around to make it louder, like Randy Blythe, Devin Townsend, like any person that fry screams ever is doing like, ah, like the big loud one and not that small one. And I think sometimes you can feel your false chords flapping in the big loud one, not as much as a false chord scream, but I think that's where people go, I'm doing both at the same time. Actually, no, we're just doing a big proper fry, and we shouldn't have been. That small one's lousy. We shouldn't be doing the small one. So no, they're not doing both at the same time. I hope that makes it clearer.
I think so. And the only other vocal technique I've heard you talk about outside of vocal fry, false chord, is the third one that sounds almost like old school hardcore, like Hatebreed. And that's the one that I feel like there is the most confusion around, and that's because it's actual screaming and it's not quite like this technique that we came up with. I will say though, I think that the guy from Hatebreed doesn't really know what he's doing. He just yells, and like you can hear it when he does his podcast afterwards, and he sounds all hoarse and shit.
Exactly. Well, I think he has had some vocal lessons, like, but later, you know, in his career. But yeah, so he's doing the category, and everybody that is not doing these fry or false chords is doing like the voice with distortion category. The reason I call it that is because you can sing with it, you can shout with it, you can talk with it, and you can do it all the same way, no matter which one you're doing. And in all those cases, your vocal cords are talking or singing or making a pitch. And if you put enough grit on it, you usually don't actually yell with your voice. Yelling with your voice is like slamming your chords together, and it's not super distorted. So we hear Jamie Jasta destroy everything, you know. There's a voice pitch underneath, destroy everything, but it's not literal shouting. And maybe sometimes accidentally if he doesn't know what he's doing, you know, as much. But what it should just be normal voice underneath, and you should be just flapping the other tissues like we do in the other sounds on top of that. So it doesn't matter if I'm singing with it like Lane Staley, you know, or I shout with it like a hardcore singer. I should be able to do either. And if I'm doing it right, I should be getting the distortion from the other tissues, not my actual voice. Because your voice actually doesn't even make that much distortion. So a lot of times we're doing it wrong. It's not very gritty anyway, you know? So you'll know, like you go hoarse really fast. It takes very short amount of time. And so, you know, if you can get that going, you can do a lot of things with that. Talk with it, sing with it, like quote unquote, shout with it. You know, even if you're doing little like, hey, to the audience. But yeah, this is definitely the hardcore thrash metal thing. Some of the punk bands. But again, I've heard blues singers do this going all the way back to like the 30s, you know. So this is a thing that people have been singing with for, you know, decades, like 100 years.
I love reminding my stepdad that fucking Rick James screams all the time.
Totally.
I feel good.
So he's a good screamer, and a lot of those guys, though, this is where we got it from.
Yeah,
was African American folks who were doing this first. So we had guys like Howlin' Wolf back in the day, probably like one of the most notorious guys from the 30s who did it. He was a really gritty voice blues guy, but fortunately, all this stuff's on YouTube. And then if you look up the song Lucille by Little Richard, and then you had this like honky tonk rock and roll kind of guys that started to come out in the 50s, and like Little Richard screaming was freaking people out. And then of course it was sort of like, for lack of a better term, like appropriated, if you will, by British people, you know, who heard that screaming and then did it, and that was obviously spewed back out to us like from the Beatles. And you know, this is where we got the harsh vocals from, though, was our people there. So
I mean, come on, an African American in the 30s yelling at us, I can understand why a lot of Americans would have a problem with that. Be like, what is this?
Even in the 50s, like Little Richard was just this all pre-civil rights era. It really got the, you know, like white people, like, you know, like, oh, very scared. But it was badass. I mean, what a crazy thing to do, you know. And even when the Beatles first played distorted guitar in the Ed Sullivan Show, and also a lot of people don't realize Paul McCartney and John Lennon, to an extent, depending on when you listen to him, were pretty good screamers as well. Paul McCartney did most of the screaming. That's why Wings is so lame later when he quit. But the point is like, actually, like, yeah, if you go back, and now that I've been doing Lex Nor Fry screaming, like I'll listen to something from the 80s. And so, like, some of these guys who sang really raspy in the 80s will push it so far that they accidentally fry scream sometimes for like a second, just like a note of a song, and we didn't realize it. Like Sammy Hagar will straight up do it in a ballad because he's just using so much rasp that he'll go up high and like he'll fry for like a second and like come back to like raspy voice. And it surprises me catching some of that in hindsight. Like we actually didn't realize like how harsh some of the vocals historically actually have been. You know, so
that's why I get kind of, for lack of a better word, triggered when I hear like my parents or something saying, I can't stand all this music with all this screaming, and I bring up like references of music they like, and I'm like, do you not hear the screaming in this song and this song?
Yeah,
like,
we're just conditioned to like it. Like these are inherently ugly sounds, but people are subconsciously conditioned to like it because this is the popular music we've been listening to, and especially that parents who would have grown up, depending on how old, anywhere from the 60s to the 80s, it should be pretty like screamy rock music, you know, like you can't tell me you like the Beatles, and I can point out several songs that would be screamy, especially by the standards of the time, where that seemed very extreme to the people at the time. So
you heard it here, boomers. Chill the fuck out.
They're not really in the demographic of
I know
the main listening anymore, so no
honestly
offense.
if any boomers are actually like, and I generally mean this, like if any boomers are actually listening to this, I'm honestly impressed. Like, shout out to you for just even checking anything like this out. But in any case, before I let you go, Mary, is there anybody you want to shout out or anything you want to mention? I don't know.
Yeah, well, my band, there's a channel, there's VoiceHacks on YouTube, and my band is Helion Prime. I only do clean singing with this band, which is kind of interesting because I've never been in a band where it's just clean singing. But also then, yeah, I think that's it. I think that's all I have going on.
Your most recent band is Helion Prime, but you mentioned another band before that was Black Metal E, and I definitely wanted to check that out.
Yeah, I was in a band on Peaceville Records called White Empress, and it was really interesting because the guitar player in the band had been in Cradle of Filth for like 20 years, and my bass player had been in Cold Chamber, and we had a pretty good lineup, but there's just like crazy personal circumstances for some of the people involved in that band, so it was really short-lived. We only had like an album and an EP maybe that came out. And before that, I was in a band called Luna Mortis. I was on Century Media Records in like 2009. So you can Google that too, I guess. If you
No,
want
I'll
to
put,
yourself.
look, lazy YouTubers, anybody watching this, anybody listening to this, I'll put the links in the description. You'll be able to find it right after this. I'll make it easy for you. But hey, hopefully we will get a chance to bring you back on the show. We can talk a little bit more about that. As it is, I was just getting to know you today. So the one thing I had to really be a frame of reference is your YouTube channel, which is doing phenomenal. What is it, like 90K or something?
Yeah, yes, it's really doing quite good. It's funny because I still feel like there's so, like, I've just barely gotten started because I'm still not even, it's really weird, but I kind of don't view myself like as a content creator. So I'm really grateful. I'm really surprised, but I also feel like that's only like 1/3 of the way that, like, I really want to go a lot further with it.
No, I think that's the right attitude. Never stop growing, never stop learning.
Exactly.
But Mary, seriously, thank you for taking the time to be on our show. Much appreciated.
Thank you guys so much for having me. I really appreciate it. It was really fun. Thank you.